Hello, and welcome to another episode of Accelerate to Profit with Virtual Events. I'm Justina Nielsen, your host, and today I have a very special guest for you, Andrea Hubbert. Welcome. Hi.
Hello.
Nice
Thanks.
to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I invited Andrea because she is the CEO and founder of Hub and Company, and she's here to tell us today how to start selling instead of storytelling. Do you hear the difference? Story selling instead of storytelling. So exactly, what is the difference? I'm dying to know. Let's dive right in. Welcome, Andrea, and please tell us who you are, who you help, and with what.
Yes, great. Thanks for having me. As Justina said, my name's Andrea, and I work with creators across all disciplines. So that's musicians, artists, dancers, people who host virtual events, people who launch courses and programs. Anybody who considers themselves part of the creator economy is who I work with. And the services that I provide are copywriting and PR strategy, public relations strategy. Those are the two areas that I focus on.
I see. So who would be your primary client? What kind of point in their entrepreneur journey or artistic journey would they need
Yeah.
your services?
So it's somebody who is understanding that, as a creator, you also are a business owner, unless you're a hobbyist, right? But you're also a business owner. And they're starting to understand that in order to connect and build fans for life, because I'm all about building fans for life, that we need to make sure that the words that we use and the stories that we tell and the personality that we show comes through in all forms of communication, and specifically our copy and the way we approach media.
So how do we have it show up in our copy in our media? What is the number one or number three or whatever? What is the idea of showing up in the media that is enticing to those who we want to entice or enroll?
Yeah, it really comes down to leaning in, I know that phrase is a bit overused, but really leaning in to our personality, our quirks, our idiosyncrasies, our ticks, because that's what's going to help us connect with other people. That's what's going to help us to say, I'm just like you. And that's honestly what's going to enable people who are in our quote unquote audience to really step forward and say, yeah, you are just like me. I feel comfortable here. This is the space that I want to be in. And honestly, one of the great ways to do that is through the use of story. And most people are familiar with telling stories, right?
Yes, storytelling is what I
Right?
know. What's the difference? Yeah.
Storytelling has been around forever. Ever. I mean, we are hardwired as humans to remember stories. And that's how we, sell ourselves, and that's how we sell our products and our services. But there is a difference between storytelling and story selling. Storytelling is the thing that helps us to captivate, right? And entertain and build a bond. It's the thing that drives the know, like, and trust factor. It's the brand awareness. Story selling, on the other hand, is the story. It's still in story form, but it's what calls somebody to action. It's what makes the person want to do the thing that you want them to do.
Yes.
So
And how does the story do that?
Right? There's 5 different ingredients that I call my story selling cocktail. For anybody who's just getting to know me, I'm all about the happy hour. So,
All right. Where's my wine? It's not really, but I got it.
I have I have a way for you to craft your custom story selling cocktail, and it's 5 ingredients. And the
Yeah.
very first ingredient is really understanding the ways that story selling differs from storytelling. And like I said, storytelling is about building the know, like, and trust. It's about brand awareness, and it's also loyalty. So once somebody, so it's getting somebody to become aware of who you are and somebody to stay. That whole client for life, which I am so all about. So
Yes.
that right, so that could be your behind the scenes of your business. Whenever you're talking about the behind the scenes of your business, you are generally sharing a story. When you then are in story selling mode and you're priming your customer or your prospect to buy, those are the stories that you need to tell for conversions. That's the specific conversation that you've had with a client, for instance. So you can talk about their journey. That's when you talk about your proprietary framework. That's when you actually share detail that helps your prospect or customer understand what it's like to work with you, what it's like to get whatever it is that they are looking to get, what
Hmm.
it's like to purchase a painting from you. That's a great example. Here's the difference between the two. As a fine artist, for instance, when you're telling stories, you might be telling stories about your who inspires your work, or why you choose watercolor oil over oil, or why you do or don't do exhibitions. Those are stories. Those are great. They're great for getting to know you and why you produce the work that you do, but they might not call somebody to actually buy a painting from you.
Right. They're not personal. I don't hear the emotion. I don't hear like the reason. I buy into the story of why you created it, or right, or
Right?
what it reminds me of. Hmm.
But when you are story selling, now you're talking about the feeling that somebody has when they're a collector of your work. You're talking about why you make specific decisions. You're talking about why you choose the canvas that you chose and how it's going to be either reflective as a luxury piece or you know whatever it is. I'm running out of room with this analogy, but my point is you're helping somebody to understand the depth of the piece, which
Yes.
is going to make them want to buy the piece.
Yes. Totally. I mean, I could see that, like a painting, it's just a painting. When I see it, I can still connect to it if like it, maybe buy it for different reasons if I was like looking for a certain piece to fit. But oftentimes when I go to gallery shows or I meet the artist, right, and I learn kind of who they are, they let me peek into their life, right? Peek
Yes.
into the stuff that you normally don't see, right? Especially at gallery showings where you get to see their studio and meet
Right.
them and learn about, there's normally all, I mean, everyone has a story, so it's normally amazing how they became creative, and that's much more. And I'm more likely to buy it to support them because I believe in them, and it's less likely about the product, right? It's now
And
I'm buying into them and not the product. I could buy any of their paintings, right? But not them.
exactly. And because you have that experience at their gallery versus just seeing the card next to the painting, now you've got a connection point, right? You probably during that conversation have explored some sort of a shared cultural experience or some shared experience that
Yes.
makes you really understand who that person is as an artist, and
Mhm.
therefore, like you said, want makes you want to support them. And that's what you do when you sell through your stories.
Yeah, you no longer are a commodity, right? Where you can compare, the two things as a product. You're selling you, and that's irreplaceable because no one can have your story. That's for sure, right? That's
Right.
guaranteed in life. Everyone is so unique. We all have our own stories that can be relatable, but it's our own reason why. So you now really can price yourself without comparing, right? It's now a much different, higher service, higher level, exclusive instead of just a commodity. I love that.
Yep.
And how would someone use it in a virtual event? So, in a virtual event, one of the biggest goals, when you're putting on an event is to enrolling audience into coming to your show, right? And there's a lot of virtual shows since the pandemic started. The Zoom and virtual world has exploded, right? So we want to convey a reason why someone would come to the virtual event and what the benefits are. Is this a way to use a story selling in that moment, or am I doing it later when I'm selling an upgrade or a VIP offer? Or am I always story selling?
Anytime you want somebody to take an action. So, people have heard the phrase call to action, right?
Yes.
You hear that all the time. Okay, well, if you really want somebody to take that action, it's more than putting it out there. It's more than saying, buy my stuff, right?
Yes.
It's actually giving them the reason to push the button to buy your stuff.
You need to move them into action. Yes, yes.
That's when
And
you
telepathically subscribe. They actually have to take an action in order to do it, right? In that moment by this deadline. Yes.
Well, and story selling is what moves them to take that action. So if you're hosting a virtual event, for instance, you're hosting a summit, right? You tell lots of stories as you market your summit. You talk about, if this is an annual event or something that you've done before, you talk about, hey, last year we had so much fun. We had this many people and we did these things and this was the speaker and blah, 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 blah. You're telling stories. You're helping people to get excited and to build awareness for the event. When you want somebody to buy the ticket to the event, free or otherwise, when you want them to push the button to reserve their seat, now the stories that you tell are all geared towards taking that action. Now you're moving into when you attend this summit, you're going to have this experience. You're going to walk away being able to do this. You're going to, you make them the focus of the story. You paint the picture for them of what's going to happen or what's going to be different afterward or whatever the right, story is to tell. That's when you're calling them to actually take an action. Do the thing, buy the thing, attend the thing, etc.
See. So is that your ingredient number 2 or 3?
It's a little bit of both. So ingredient number 2 is really, learning how to apply the principles of
Yeah, we just talked
storytelling,
about. Mm-hmm.
right? So that is, you know, there's 5 stories anybody should be able to tell at the drop of a hat. It's
Okay.
the story of self, your founding story, what you stand for or against, your personal vision, and a memorable customer story. And you can tell those in a traditional storytelling manner. So you and I are having a conversation, and I'm telling you that I am all about supporting artists. They are the lifeblood of small businesses, they are the lifeblood of local economy, and I want to do whatever I can to help support them. I'm telling you a story. I am storytelling. I could also say, Justina, I really love to support local artists. That's why I attend gallery shows. That's why I buy this specific artist's paintings. I would love for you to click the button and reserve a spot so that you and I can go together and learn more about this artist because I think from what I know of you, you're really going to love their work.
Love that.
See the difference?
Good
The first
example.
time I was just telling you a nice story, which is great, right? You're learning more about me.
Yeah.
Second time, I was thinking about it from your perspective.
Yes.
And since I don't know very much about you, I
You're
could.
perfect. No, you got it. You pulled it out of my one sentence, my one story. That's great.
So the difference is usually for storytelling, that's your broader stuff. That's your social media and your videos and your summits and your website and all the things. Story selling is more like the private. Like I always say, you market publicly and you sell privately. So that's more like your email marketing or the sales
Yeah.
page, which I understand is a public page, or your webinars.
Yeah.
That's
Good.
ingredient number 2.
And number 3 is staying focused on the customer when story selling. And I know you already said that. You kind of preluded into this, but I wouldn't mind repeating because when I ask my clients to write copy for the virtual events or hire someone to write virtual events, I always try to like instill into them, rewrite, not whenever you wrote an email, rewrite it by rewriting your I statements into you statements, or even better, the benefit to you, right? So I'm good at so and so. You can simply rewrite by, you would greatly benefit by this, right? Oh, I know you're struggling with it. I have the solution, right? So it's always focus on them first. Tell me more about that. What other ways, or how do we make sure that we stay focused on the customer and not ourselves?
Yeah, and that's a great example. And when I'm writing, it depends on what I'm writing and who I'm writing it for. Generally, when I'm writing for myself, it's not you, it's we, because I'm right there.
Ooh, juicy, guys. I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you guys write this down? Replace your I with we. What a different statement. Then it seems collaborative. You just told me we're a community. I'm not alone. I have you, you and
Yep.
I. Yes.
Yeah, so that, you, it is great. If you moving away from I to you is perfect, and that's great. And that's usually when you're more in storytelling form too, right? You're sharing information, you're building enthusiasm, etc. When you replace you with we or our, well, now you're right there shoulder to shoulder with somebody, and they're more inclined again to feel that connection with you, because now you're sharing more about yourself with them, and you're giving them one more chance to see how you actually are connected. What are
Mm,
those quirks and idiosyncrasies that you both have?
I see. So it's not just focusing on the benefits, but also just in general, finding the connection points. I love that. This is a
Yeah.
great point of that. This is a great,
So
great tip.
in ingredient three, when we stay focused on our customer during story selling, when we're story selling, it's like thinking about your about page, right? So your about page is not about you.
Wait, can you say it again, please?
For the back, your about page is not about you, right? It's not. It's a mechanism again for somebody to see
Connect,
themselves,
right?
right? A mechanism for somebody to see themselves in the words that you are using, the stories that you are telling in your narrative. But it's not about you. It really is about them. And it's making them the hero in your story as you're talking about your various products and services. So, in this third ingredient, it's we really need to know them well. I mean, that is not a cliche. You really need to know well who it is that you are speaking to. Who are they? How do they behave? What is the exact pain that they are trying to solve at that moment, right? During what part of the journey are they on while they're looking at your product or solution? Because at different points in the journey, as at different points when you're talking about your virtual event, you're going to say things differently, right? At the beginning, when you're just first announcing that you're having a virtual event, they don't know much. So you're going to talk differently. You're going to be a little bit broader. You're going to be more, probably, honestly, you're going to be telling more story. You're going to be storytelling more. But as they, read that first social post, go to the sales page, look at who your speakers are, kind of dig in and understand, wow, this really is something that I have an interest in. Well, now your words, the way you're connecting with them is going to change, and you're going to start calling them to register and to take advantage of upsells or whatever it is that's connected to that virtual event. The second thing is that we need to collect lots of data, and it's really
Yeah.
not, it's not hard. We look at the comments that people leave. We look at the private messages that they send us. We look at social media sites that they use and the people that they follow on those sites, and see what conversations they're having. Because there's nothing that calls somebody to us and to action faster than knowing who they are and using the words that they use.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. I'm like, all of a sudden you like a quicker in, right? You can become from a
Right?
stranger to like, oh, we have something in common. We
Right? Like
agree to be friends. You know what I mean? Like, okay.
how good does it feel when somebody says to you, it's like you're in my head? Well, yeah, that's what we want. We want to be in their head. We want them to know that this is the thing for them. And then the third part of this third ingredient is to understand the arc of the stories, remembering that they're the hero, but then their pain is the villain, right? And you're the one to guide them to resolution through the offer that you're making. So by buying, joining, attending, they can get rid of that pain, and you've done that through story.
I love that how you separated the person experiencing overwhelm from the overwhelm. Let's say overwhelm. Let's say overwhelm is the pain. I'm just kind of using an
Yeah,
example because yes, oftentimes like I'm overwhelmed, right? So I need to be fixed. And I love how you making them the hero because you know they're full of potential. You kind of seeing them high, and the only thing stopping them is this pain, right? And you have something to fix it so they can truly shine. That's a great way. That's a great way to put that when you're writing about pain in all your email copies for events and in general. Yes.
yeah, painting a picture that puts them at the center, and then your product or service as the secret weapon is a great way to use story selling.
Oh my
Because
God,
it's
it's
using
like a
that.
Batman movie. I mean, there's a secret or whatever kind of movie. I mean, I don't know.
Right,
Super villain movie. There's a secret weapon, and that's your stuff. That's you. There's
right,
a villain, that's the pain, and there's the hero, and that's the person you're speaking to. I love how visually that makes sense. And yeah,
right.
who doesn't want a secret weapon to slay my villain?
Right. And they don't want you to be the hero either. They don't need you to quote unquote rescue them. They need you to introduce your product as the secret weapon that they're looking for.
Yes, that way you're not like bragging even about you. I love that because it changes the whole perspective. Like I'm the best for you. I can only help you. No one else can help you. Versus you changing the directive to narrative to I have this secret sauce that can help you be your best or whatever it is that you're good at. That's great.
Yep.
Brilliant. That's like really good juicy stuff. Thank you. I'm like
Sure.
already strategizing. Okay, I'm gonna rewrite that email I was writing this morning. This is so good. It's just so good. So using the story process to convey value.
Yes, that's my fourth ingredient. So we always want to make sure that something that whenever we have an interaction with somebody, that there's a valuable exchange. Even if we're storytelling, right, which we're entertaining, engaging, that kind of thing, there's some sort of value, which is maybe the value is that they walk away feeling better, right? That's great value when you're telling stories. When you're story selling, though, you really need to think about what your customers can uniquely, just like you were saying, uniquely buy from you and not your competitors, not your peers. And then how do you deliver that to them? What is that experience like? And we want to then create stories that demonstrate this value and lead them to that sale. So these are not the stories that you would tell to generate awareness or build relationship. These are truly sales focused stories. These are stories about maybe you have a proprietary method and you're helping people to understand why the way the building blocks that you have in the order that you have them make a difference versus somebody else having the same building blocks but in a different order. Like, why is your method more helpful than somebody else's? Because let's be honest, there aren't that many new things being created in the world right now. It really is the way we put things together and package things. And if you can tell stories that help people to really understand that and decide for themselves that they need it, that's how you are using story selling to call somebody to action. So stay focused on leading somebody to do something when you're telling stories, that when you're telling stories where you want someone to take an action, right? When you want somebody to know you and start to trust you, tell entertaining stories, tell educational stories, tell all of those stories as well. Because let's face it, when we talk in story, we are disarming people. We're removing barriers. So it's always great to tell a story. It's just what's the emphasis in the story.
Yeah, I love that. That changes how, yes, how you story sell, not tell. I mean, yes, it's all the same topic. I know we kind of talked about, so yeah, the ingredients, how they tangle, but the bottom line is for the virtual event, um, there are two strong call to actions that we get to have for attendees. In the beginning, it is to sign up, right? Register, get your free ticket, free spot, paid ticket, whatever it is in the beginning. And that normally goes to like a cold audience, right? Because it's or somewhat warm, depending. And then the second call to action generally is get this offer, right? The upgrade offer, whatever it is, to make your life, business slash relationship better. So I normally, with story telling, I would say in the beginning, and then separately, I would have a call to action. So how do I put it together into story selling, right? Or to have a strong call to action?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And, I think if, as long as we're doing the first four, right? We're the first four ingredients are
Yeah.
mixed well. So we understand the difference between when we want to tell a story and when we want to sell with a story. Because I'm not saying that you never tell stories. I'm just saying you have to understand when's the right time to tell a story versus to sell through a story. And then when we understand the principles during the various phases, in this instance of trying to get somebody to buy a ticket to a virtual event, which is our second ingredient, and then our third ingredient being, staying focused on the customer and their needs at all parts of that journey. And I understand journey could be quick and a journey could be long, but there's different times when you're going to want to specifically sell through story in that journey. And of course, the fourth ingredient being always conveying value through the stories that we are telling. When we mix those four appropriately, excuse me, the call to action is probably the easiest part, because at this point they're like this. They're like, just tell
I
me
see.
how
So you've
did
done
you
your job. I
see,
see.
right?
Okay, got it. So I think the tendency, at least with me, just like me, is to skip to the call to action, right? Without the storytelling first. And that's when we're like, why are they buying? It's a great offer. They have bonuses and it's cheap, it's half price, it's whatever, right? We're like getting mad at ourselves or what get disappointed. But it's because we didn't do the first four parts.
Well, and here's the thing. So this is a really good point, Justina, because sometimes now you see on sales pages, oh, you just want to skip to the buy button, or yes, I'm in, or those kinds of things way too early. That's great if that's how somebody wants to write their sales page, but I think that if you don't give somebody enough, and maybe they do it off of their sales page, that might work too. But if you don't give somebody enough of an understanding as to why that one specific individual is going to want to do the thing, you're actually hurting yourself in the long term. And remember, I'm all about fans for life. Sure,
Yes.
that tactic might get me to buy this one thing, attend this one event. But is it going to keep me because I don't have any connection to you? Maybe you just happen to have people at your event that I just want to be, I want to see or I want to hear from.
Yeah, or a free gift, or there's some one thing, but I'm not really enrolled into attending because I don't see why. Yeah, I don't.
Right. And so I guess the point I'm trying to make is that the call to action is more than just the 5 words that you have on your button, right? Your call to action, honestly, is being built throughout the whole story. And the call to act, and then at the end, you're just actually saying the words.
Right. Then you're just saying, okay, you ready? Here's the
Right.
thing that you've been
Right.
waiting for.
Yeah, but you've been calling them to action the whole time,
Yeah.
because you know them. You understand what they're looking for. You understand the pain point that they're trying to resolve. Every time you tap into those things, you're calling them to action. And at that specific moment, the action is to continue listening, and then to buy the thing, get the ticket, whatever. So, don't overcomplicate it. Use language that demonstrates that you have an alignment with their current state of mind, that you know what they value. Add a sense of urgency, but only if it's real, right? Like scarcity for the sake of
Yeah,
scarcity.
don't fake scarcity because people will find
Right.
out. Then you lose the lifelong fans, right? You
Right.
said they might buy in this offer, but then like, oh, okay, no, I'm not.
And And then the last thing is to be genuine in connecting your story to a relevant action for them. Like, be genuine. If you really are, a deadhead and you want to include that in your story because you think other deadheads are the right audience for you, then that's great. If you don't know anything, if you don't even know what a deadhead is, don't reference it.
Don't use words you normally wouldn't use because you think they're cool.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. I love it. So many gold nuggets. And I also love that I did comment on how you pointed out how important it is for any of this to like really resonate, to do the first step. So I don't want anyone in here today listening or watching replay. And the first step is to really know your audience, right? Like you can't, I mean, otherwise you're just guessing the stories. Like
Yeah.
really making your avatar and researching what their needs are. And what I loved about that when you said it is most people say like, well, I don't know really what they want and no one will respond to my surveys, or I'm too new to have enough people to survey, or whatever it is. You just mentioned something really important, is to finding out, by researching comments on social media and researching their ideal clients or people they
Yeah.
follow, because oftentimes the answers are there. Or even like I think on some Facebook groups of people who do what your ideal clients do or are your ideal clients, and listening to that chatter and like really writing it down and then categorizing it, right? Because some of the pain points will start to be very apparent that there are more.
Right. And put yourself in their shoes, right? Like, think about it. If you were in that situation, what would you want to know? What words would help you? And and use those then to try and get to gather the research, right? So I get it. When you're new, and I do feel bad for people who are new to being an entrepreneur or small business owner, because you're bombarded with information everywhere, and it's always drop a survey or go in a Facebook group and ask people, and that might not be the best way, and it could sometimes be discouraging because it's could be random. It could be a
Yeah,
random.
you don't know. Yeah, it's not. Yes, you don't know really who you're pulling unless you really go into a very specific group or you have a community that you trust and like. Or, but even then, yeah,
And also it just takes a while. You could think that you have the right, so maybe you think you have the right group and you ask your questions, and then you find out, you know what, that's not the right group because either they're not the right people, or I didn't ask the right questions, or they didn't give the right answers. But sometimes, honestly, this is not anything to do with story selling. This is just a bonus nugget.
yeah.
Sometimes it takes a while to understand who the right audience is.
Yes, and guess what failed launches are? They're not failed, they're just lessons, right? Because you realize now. So, but with these tips, right, hopefully what we're trying to do is try our best at knowing some of the most commonly experienced pain points. And it's good to have it run by someone that's your client, right? If you had them, or potential client avatars, and do your research, because then you know what I feel like, once you know who this is my avatar and here's the problems they're experiencing, I know what my offer is. All these story selling and storytelling in general becomes easy because it's almost
Exactly.
like I'm just referring to, oh yeah, this is what they're struggling with, I'm writing about it. And you just told us a great 5-step method to like shape it.
I get that all the time. People go to my website, or they just see my stuff, and it's always, it's very complimentary. It's very nice, Oh my gosh, I feel like I know you, and you're so personable, and blah 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 blah. And that's because you do know me, because we're this. I know you. We share so many things that I know you and I'm just able to write the words that are going to resonate with you. And that's the whole point. In the larger scheme of things is when we're trying to move somebody to take an action, it's because we know it's the right action for them. And if we just let go and stop worrying so much, the words will be there. Because we know it's what they
No,
need.
right? So we just, for some reason, we kind of have a hard time putting it together that relates to the person who doesn't know. Because I feel like sometimes the creator, I know what I know, right? So I'm like, well, of course you should do it. This is no brainer. Like, yes. But I realized 2 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever, I didn't know any of this stuff. So I get to educate and provide value and do all that story, tell and sell, I guess, so that they now know why this is the right decision at the right moment, the right call to action.
Yeah, sometimes you have to follow your instinct, and it could be contrary to what other people are saying, but we have instincts for a reason.
Be authentic. I love that. For everyone watching, the Hub and Company, it's HUBA and company.com. I do have Andrea's website and social media links on her speaker page. And also, Andrea has a special gift for our audience today. What is it?
Well, remember I told you I'm about the happy hour, so it's my recipe guide for for creating your custom story selling cocktail. And
Hey.
it'll walk you through with some prompts and exercises to really hone in on stories, using stories to sell.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for your generosity. I'm looking
Sure.
forward to learning more by downloading this. And also, I know that copywriting is super important. Story selling is super important. If someone wanted to work with you, what would be the first step to find you or to learn from you or to hire you?
Yeah, so my website is probably a great way to learn about me and what I offer. It not probably. Why did I say probably? It is because that's how I set it up. And from there, on my contact page, I have what I call coffee dates, and so we could have a coffee date, coffee or tea, and get to know each other on a Zoom session and see if it makes sense for us to work together.
I love it. Coffee chat with Andrea. You are welcome, guys. This is a great opportunity. Um, this is so wonderful, so inspiring, and so educational. Thank you for providing all this value to our listeners and attendees today. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Before I let you go, any final words of encouragement or wisdom, anything you want to instill in our attendees?
I would love if everybody just went out. Okay, not just. If everybody who were to really think about how can they incorporate more sales focused stories. How can they story tell instead of story? I mean, excuse me. Wow, story sell instead of story tell. How can we really hone in and use story to move people to action and try it?
Great advice. And if you're just tuning in and you haven't heard what is the difference between story selling and telling, tune in for the entire episode. Thank you
Right.
so much. Have a good day.
Bye.